Today on Who is That Saint? We meet a man who could have lived a comfortable life among Rome's nobility, but chose instead to walk into its slums, prisons and hospitals to bring the mercy of Christ to the forgotten. Saint John Baptist de Rossi is the kind of saint who never made headlines but changed lives one soul at a time. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to pour yourself out for others until there's nothing left but grace, he's your guy. From noble roots to humble calling. John Baptist de Rossi was born in 1698 near Genoa, Italy. Though his family belonged to the minor nobility, they were far from wealthy. They raised him with deep faith, discipline, and a reverence for the poor. From a young age, John showed signs of unusual holiness. He prayed constantly, fasted voluntarily, and preferred quiet study over childish games. At 13 he was sent to Rome to study with his cousin, who was a canon of the Church of San Giovanni dei Fiorentini. Rome could have swallowed him. It was grand, glittering, and full of corruption. But John kept his eyes on Christ. His brilliance stood out. He entered the Collegium Romanum, the Jesuit-run university, and studied theology and philosophy with distinction. But behind the academic achievement was a heart already on fire for service. He visited the sick, cared for the homeless, helped bury the dead. Even as a student, he spent more time in the city's slums than its salons. But holiness comes with a cost. The price of charity. John's health began to fail under the strain. He suffered from epilepsy, exhaustion, and depression. His superiors worried about ordaining him. But John knew what he was called to. And after years of formation, he was finally ordained a priest in 1721. He had no official parish, no title, no pulpit. But Rome became his church. John walked the streets in his worn cassock, hearing confessions in alleyways, bringing communion to bedridden paupers, sitting for hours with prisoners. He founded homes for abandoned women, organized lay people to serve the sick, and preached to laborers who'd never set foot in a cathedral. He didn't wait for the poor to come to him. He went to them. He saw each person as Christ, especially the broken ones. And he treated them with dignity that stunned the world. His confessional was never empty. People came to him because he listened. He didn't shame. He didn't scold. He reminded them of God's mercy, and how badly the world needed it. But this relentless service came at a cost. Broken in body, unbreakable in spirit. John's health collapsed multiple times. The seizures returned. He lost his strength. Friends urged him to slow down. But he couldn't. Not when there were still souls to reach. He often preached at the hospice of Santa Galla, where the terminally ill were left to die. He'd sit with them for hours, holding their hands, praying with them, sometimes being the only person they saw before death. He slept little, ate less. He gave away his food, his money, his strength. He lived what he preached. Radical self-emptying. Total surrender. And yet, there was joy. John was known for his smile. His gentleness. His ability to find hope in the worst conditions. He didn't glorify suffering. He just refused to waste it. The mercy mission. Eventually, the Pope himself recognized John's holiness. He was appointed canon of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, and later confessor to the Roman seminary. But even with these roles, he insisted on living simply. He refused honors. Refused a personal servant. Refused to let his new title pull him away from his first love, the poor. His guiding principle? That no one should die without hearing that God loves them. He wrote nothing. Left no grand theological legacy. But he reformed hearts. He restored people to grace. He stood in the places the church had often forgotten and brought Christ back in. In a time when many priests courted favor with the elite, John sat beside the dying in Rome's ghettos. In a church that sometimes hid behind hierarchy, he kicked down the door and went straight to the people. His death and legacy. On May 23, 1764, John collapsed after giving a mission sermon. He was carried to his room where he received the last rites. He died later that day at the age of 66. The poor of Rome wept openly. Hundreds flooded the streets for his funeral. They didn't care that he was a canon. They came because he had loved them without condition. He was canonized in 1881 by Pope Leo XIII. Today, Saint John Baptist de Rossi is the patron of the abandoned, people with epilepsy, prisoners, confessors and caregivers. His relics are housed in the Church of San Giovanni dei Fiorentini, where his journey first began. His name may not be famous, but in heaven he's one of the greatest priests Rome ever saw. St. John Baptist de Rossi shows us that holiness doesn't need a microphone. Sometimes it just needs a pair of shoes, a bag of bread, and a heart that says yes to the forgotten. He didn't write volumes. He wrote mercy on the streets of Rome. He wasn't flashy. He was faithful. And in a time that prefers spotlight saints, he reminds us that the truest sanctity is hidden, ordinary, and relentless. Quote of the day: "If I could preach a single homily to the whole world, it would be this: Christ came for the broken and he never leaves them behind." St. John Baptist de Rossi.